Welcome to Behind the Ticket. I'm Charles Coaxum, SVP of Customer Experience here at Automox. This podcast is pretty simple. We take real tickets, the kind our support and services team work through with customers every single day, and we try to pull out the lessons that actually matter. No fluff, no theory, just what happens when something breaks, how teams figure it out, and how you can take that back, hopefully, to your own environment. Today's story is a good one because, at least from my perspective, because on the surface it looked completely routine, but the truth was things were awry. So a ticket came in on a Tuesday morning from a customer service desk. Short message, like most, to the point. Automox says machines are patched. Our phone scanner says they're not. So let me stop for a second because I want to be honest here. When the ticket first came in, the assumption was probably scanner timing issue. Happens all the time. Scanner runs before the patch finishes. Reboot hasn't happened yet. Dashboard catches up. Problem solved, right? We move on. Except the customer came back later on with a little bit more data. It wasn't a few machines with a timing hiccup. It was dozens. And suddenly the question wasn't, when did the patch finish? It was whether it finished at all. So here's the setup. It's standard monthly patch cycle running through Automox, Windows workstations, overnight patch window, reboots allowed if needed, and compliance is tracked through the dashboard. By every measure, it looks clean. Patches showing as successfully installed, policies running as configured, the dashboard looks healthy, but the phone scanner, different story entirely, right? Several machines still appearing vulnerable. Security team is flagging the mismatch. Compliance report and patching report, they're telling two completely different stories. That's when the ticket really landed with our technical support engineers. And the first question, the right question, is always, are we looking at a reporting mismatch? Or are these endpoints actually not patched? Because those are really two very different problems with two very different fixes. And to answer it, you have to get into device level telemetry. You can't figure this out from the dashboard all on its own. So engineers pulled detailed logs and patch execution data from a handful of the affected machines. And here's where it really gets interesting, right? The Automox platform showed the patch job completing successfully, no errors. But when they went deeper into the device logs on the OS side, something was clearly off. The patch process started correctly, the installer executed, but the operating system never finalized the patch state. And if you've spent any time in Windows patching, you already know where this is going, right? Pending reboot. The update installed technically, but Windows requires a restart to actually commit the change. And until that reboot happens from the OS's perspective, the patch isn't done. So the phone is still there. Now, here's the wrinkle. The customer had configured their reboot behavior intentionally. They didn't want machines restarting midday and disrupting users, which is a totally reasonable call. But some of those machines had been pushing the reboot to the next maintenance window and then another. And in the meantime, the scanner, it's doing its job. It's looking at the actual OS state and correctly flagging those machines as vulnerable. Two tools, both telling the truth, just about different things, right? The patching platform, hey, I ran the installer, job's done. The scanner, OS hasn't finalized, still vulnerable. So neither one is wrong, but together, it's wildly confusing if you don't know what to look for. So once the team confirmed that pattern was on a handful of machines, they expanded the check across the full affected group, and that same condition it existed every single time. So patch installed, reboot pending, update not finalized. So the root cause wasn't a failed patch, no bug, no misconfiguration in the policy. So it's nothing exotic. It was the gap between patch execution and patch completion, and reboot deferral falling right into that gap. So the fix, it's a clean fix once you know what you're dealing with. First identifying every endpoint sitting in a pending reboot state, then use Automox to trigger a controlled reboot during the next maintenance window. So there's no user disruption and no emergency change request. Machines restart, OS finalizes the updates, vuln scan starts flipping machines to compliant, and the whole thing's resolved quickly after that. But what looked like a patching failure was actually a state synchronization issue, right? And the reason it took investigation to uncover it is both systems, the patching platform and the scanner, they're behaving exactly as designed. That's honestly a bit of a harder class of problem to troubleshoot. When nothing's broken, you just really have to understand what each tool is measuring. So the three things to take, from this one is, first, patch execution and patch completion are not the same thing. An installer running successfully does not mean the OS has finalized the update. That reboot state really does matter. Second, when your patching tool and your scanner disagree, you can't assume one of them is wrong. You got to look at what each one is measuring. Usually they're both right? They're just about different moments in the life cycle. And then third, automation is what makes this scalable. Manually hunting down machines stuck in a pending reboot status across a large environment, as you know, that's hours of work. Automating the detection and the remediation, that's an operational fix that takes minutes. And the bigger your environment, the more that gap matters. So, quick and easy, down and dirty. That's episode 1 of Behind the Ticket. We want to come to you fast and furious with what the issue is, what the root cause was, what the fix was, and hopefully you take that away. So appreciate you listening. And if you've ever spent a Tuesday afternoon, or more likely evening, wondering why your scanner and patching tool can't agree on anything, hopefully this one hits close to home. You can find all the Autonomous IT episodes on the Automox YouTube channel, or wherever you get your podcasts. So until next time, keep your endpoints patched, your reboots rescheduled, and hopefully your ticket queue quiet.